We all know that Disney has made some very popular and entertaining animated films over the years. Interestingly, what many of you don't know is that these original storylines are often so gruesome or deal with content so inappropriate for children that Disney alters the material to make it kid-friendly. Disney movies based on R-rated stories. The Jungle Book. The original Jungle Book was written by Rudyard Kipling, someone not known to have a positive and Disney-esque outlook on the world. If you read Kipling's short story Letting in the Jungle, you'd probably come away wondering why it isn't called The Jungle Massacre. That's because, unlike the film where humans and wild animals become friends and Mowgli returns to the civilization, the original material sees a path of destruction and death. In Kipling's version, Mowgli does return to the village, but the villagers chase him out. He then teams up with Hathi, the elephant, who turns out to be a lot angrier and more vengeful than one Disney creates. Together, and with an army of other jungle animals, they swoop down onto the village, destroying it. The Lion King. Anyone who has read Shakespeare's Hamlet knows the strong similarities it has with the Lion King. A jealous uncle kills the king to gain power, and the son ends up getting revenge in the end. The two stories share that general similarity. However, where Disney had to stray from the original storyline was in the number of people who get murdered. You see, Hamlet is not a happy story. Hamlet, unlike Simba, doesn't spend his days singing Hakuna Matata, but instead goes about life in a depressed, near-suicidal state. When Simba's father reappears as a ghost, he tells Simba to take his proper place as king. When Hamlet's murdered father reappears as a ghost, he instructs his son to exact vengeance. If The Lion King had followed the story faithfully, kids everywhere would have looked on in horror as basically everyone was murdered, poisoned, and killed off. It gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, circle of life. Snow White. We all know how the Disney classic goes, right? In a nutshell, Snow White takes a bite of an apple, falls into a long sleep, and gets saved by a prince. The dwarfs chase the evil queen up a mountain and she ends up falling to her death. The actual Brothers Grimm story is a little darker and has a more sadistic twist in the end. The queen does try to kill Snow White, not just once, but 3 times. After the prince inadvertently saves Snow White from choking on an apple, they decide to get married. The two invite the evil queen where they exact a Game of Thrones style revenge. At the wedding, the queen is forced to put on a pair of red-hot iron shoes and then made to dance until she dies. Tangled. We all know this version of Rapunzel, which sees the main character possess both magical hair and tears which can extend life and save those who are mortally injured. This Disney version is cleaner and less horrifying than the Brothers Grimm original, which has Rapunzel letting down more than her hair to interested passersby. In fact, she doesn't even have magical hair. Nonetheless, when a prince who is in love with her is tricked into believing Rapunzel is dead, he throws himself from the tower. Fortunately, there's a shrub to break his fall. Unfortunately, the thorns of the shrub gouge out his eyes and he is forced to blindly wander the forest for years until Rapunzel shows up and heals his eyes with her magical tears. The Little Mermaid. If you followed Disney films to the late 80s and into the 90s, then you are more than familiar with The Little Mermaid. Ariel, the mermaid, did see a prince and did make a deal to get legs which cost her voice. This part is just like the movie. Where the book differs is that the deal stipulates that Ariel will die if she can't get the prince to marry her. As an added bonus, the price of having human legs is that every step Ariel takes causes excruciating pain. In the end, Ariel is told she can be a mermaid again if she kills the prince. Not a total psychopath, she opts to instead commit suicide and turns into nothing more than sea foam. Mulan. When Disney released Mulan in 1998, we watched as a young girl pretended to be a boy so she could go off to war. Of course, she is discovered and kicked out, but saves the day at the Emperor's palace and ends up living happily ever after with a general. Then, there's the real version of Mulan. Originally written in 5 AD and adapted over the centuries, in the original, Mulan returns home from war to find the world has changed. To make a long story short, she is basically forced to become a prostitute for the new ruler. Unhappy with her life, Mulan doesn't end up with the general like in the film, but commits suicide in a very un-Disney ending. Cinderella. Unless you've come from another planet, there's almost no way that you don't know the storyline to this crystal slipper wearing character. In fact, there are 2 previous Cinderella stories, which are both a bit more gruesome than the Disney classic. One version, written in the 17th century, sees Cinderella kill her evil stepmother by slamming the lid of a chest on her throat, which breaks her neck. If that's not enough, you only need to look at the Brothers Grimm classic, which sees the wicked stepsisters chopping off parts of their feet to fit them in the shoes. When their trickery is uncovered, those cute little birds that follow Cinderella around, well, they swoop down and peck out the evil stepsisters' eyes. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. If you pick up a copy of The Hunchback of Notre Dame hoping to read the same story you saw on screen thanks to Disney, don't get your hopes up. Victor Hugo, the author of the story, wasn't in a very Disney mood when he wrote about Quasimodo. Hugo's story sees an Esmeralda with some looser morals and a less than chivalrous Phoebus. Additionally, when Frollo frames Esmeralda for murder, Quasimodo just watches as she's executed. Filled with rage, the Hunchback throws Frollo off the church tower before he proceeds to crawl into Esmeralda's grave and curl up with her corpse. We can't really understand why Disney didn't want to go with this heartwarming version. Peter Pan. Ah yes, the story of a lovable boy who never grows up and teaches other kids to fly while the whole time having a great adventure. That's the story we all know, isn't it? According to J.M. Barrie's original story, Peter is a bit different. The hero of our story comes off as more of a homicidal maniac who revels in killing pirates and brags about chopping off Captain Hook's hand. It is also strongly insinuated that Peter's murderous ways don't end there. The Lost Boys of Neverland are bound by the rule that no one is allowed to grow up, so when they get too old, the narrator states that Peter must thin them out, probably in a manner fit more for The Godfather than for a Disney kids film. Thanks for watching. We hope this video made you sad. Here's some other videos that might do the same thing. And while you're here, don't forget to click like and subscribe.